lead to more positive outcomes for your health, perhaps for sustainability of the environment and so forth. So that's really, really interesting. And I think it's called Doc Labs or something like that. Yeah, but it's really, really interesting, because they're pouring in up to $1 billion worth of money, into creating a 21st century city. So it'll be something that'll be first of its kind on the planet. And
I love that.
I love that. Yeah, I really, really do.
Because, I mean, when I first encountered Fuller through when I was doing HKR 2000, he was one of our guest lecturers, and he talked about walkability, and what gets people out and moving more in their environment is just how accessible, and we're not just talking like wheelchair accessible or whatever, we're talking about people who don't want to walk 25 minutes on a horrible sidewalk with no functioning push buttons to cross the road. People are just going to get in their car. People aren't going to want to ride the bus if there's no shelter on the bus station when it's pouring rain.
Exactly.
Yeah, if people can't access a push button to cross the road, they're going to feel very unsafe. So why would you put yourself at this risk? However, if we have this environment, this built environment that inspires an active population, that's going to be very in tune with the people. I love this. I find it funny, this idea. People always assume the worst of technology and that it's going to separate us from our health and separate us from each other and make us less healthy. Yeah. When then you look at concepts like this that want us moving more, that want us being safer in our day-to-day life, I don't see an issue with all of it. I'm sure that some people could put a spin on it and be afraid of it, but I gladly embrace it. St. John's, God, if we could just have like some more functioning push buttons in the city, I would be happy enough with that. Stick sensors wherever you want. Seriously. So, no, that's really fascinating. So, if you, coming from the background that you have, if you could convince the public to make 2 lifestyle changes to promote better health, what would they be?
Without a doubt, first one would be fasting, intermittent fasting, and then number 2, perhaps increase sleep. And if I can fit in a third one, it would be stop drinking coffee.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just a personal thing.
Yeah,
I don't have the science behind that.
I mean, some people are throwing a lot of different things out there. I've heard some people argue that it's potentially inflammatory. I've heard other people argue that it's just a detrimental addiction. I've heard some people say that at least in the weekend, don't go through that like weekly withdrawal. Yeah. And I think that if you're having to say that, that says something. I'm a tea drinker personally. I've never really been much of a coffee person.
Like me? What type of tea?
I'm a bit of a Tetley girl, but I love green tea. I also love herbal teas. I love all of it.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic.
I find, and speaking of intermittent fasting, I find that specific teas, green tea, red teas, things like that, very good for digestion.
Big time.
And I've had someone introduce me to the herb lemon balm, which is, I have some growing at my house if you ever want a little sample.
Yeah, I'd love to.
It's great for stress. It's great for some pain. It's great for digestion. It's just a fantastic herb.
Wow.
And so I find that it's really great that once we kind of get off of the go-to, I need a coffee every 3 hours, and there are other hot drinks that have great benefits. Yeah. And if you're getting that energy from your sleep and from your diet, and the occasional, maybe caffeinated, but not to that extent, beverage, I just think that you're going to get more out of your day.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's definitely like this sort of a situation where if you're halfway through something and you know that coffee, it's like if you're a smoker and you know you got to go out in the next hour for a cigarette or it's going to be bothering you. I don't see how that, is really going to benefit your productivity.
Exactly, yeah. I agree with you on that.
So we spoke on tonight's topic while I was participating in one of the lab's studies. Would you care to give just a really quick rundown on that study and what data is being collected?
So we are collecting biovitals. We're collecting heart rate, step count, breathing rate. We're also collecting energy expenditure. But it's a number of different sub-projects. In particular, I'll speak in terms of my own project. I'm trying to improve the accuracy of predicting light, sedentary, moderate, and vigorous activity from wearable devices. So in particular, I'm looking at 3 wearable devices, Apple Watch, Fitbit, and Genie Active. Because as we do have them right now, they're very useful, but you don't quite know how much time you're spending doing sedentary activity and so forth. So I'm developing these machine learning algorithms that mine through data, and then they try to classify accurately, how much time you're spending in sedentary in a particular activity cohort. So that's what I'm doing with the data.
So are you guys still looking for participants?
We still are. So if there's anyone who's interested, please come down to HKR building and try and find Dr. Fuller. And
that's the Walkabilly Lab in the basement of the PE building. If you're
Yes.
coming out of the tunnels, you'll walk straight past it. The door is open usually throughout the day.
It normally is PE 1007, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so to anybody listening who is a MUN student and you're interested in participating in a cool study, if you're able to run on a treadmill for a good period of time,
And if anyone is...
if you're reasonably fit.
Yeah, if you're reasonably fit, because if anyone's interested... It's in total, it's 65 minutes of your time. It's 3 bouts of activity on a treadmill. So you are basically walking around 4 miles an hour, and then you go again around maybe 5.5, maybe 6 miles an hour, and then again and then you stop running at 7 miles an hour. And each one of those, you're doing them for 10-minute bouts. But in between those bouts, you're also either sitting on a chair or lying on a bed for about 5 minutes. But in total, the whole protocol will take you 65 minutes of your time.
So, Bo, we're going to delve in a moment right into the meat of the show, the intermittent fasting. But before we do that, I'm going to take our second and final break of the hour. So stay tuned. Annii Gets Healthy will return after these messages. Welcome back to Annii Gets Healthy. Before the break, I was talking with Bo about research, a little casual introduction to intermittent fasting, how I got into intermittent fasting, and just a lot of really great stuff, backstory on his life. Now we're going to get into intermittent fasting. We've got to talk about our experiences with it, how it's benefited us, and some of the science behind intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
So, historically, humans have fasted for a few reasons. First of all, we've been fasting for thousands of years, as long as humans have been around, really.
Yeah.
Whether it was our choice or not. And then for religious reasons, there were several reasons we fasted. We commonly fasted to treat ailments.
Yes.
We fasted for, as I said, religious reasons, a practice that is still held by many religions and cultures around the world. Mm-hmm. And obviously people have fasted because they had limited to no access to food. Yeah. There is something to be said about the evolutionary need to be able to fast and how humans adapted to going long periods without food. There's also an argument to be made that we are challenging this adaptation by eating round the clock as we do now. Our bodies aren't necessarily designed to do that.
No, they're not.
So there are a few ways that people do intermittent fasting. Some people fast, as both of us do, for periods each day.
Yes.
So I think I read your post that you sent me. You do 24 or do you do 16-8?
16-8.
I do 16-8 as well. Now, that window is usually a bit shorter than 8. It's like somebody doing caloric reduction. You don't have to, if you're doing 2,100 calories, you don't have to eat the whole 2,100. So, yeah, no, I find that the more time I have between, the more alert I feel, the better I sleep. We'll get into that. Yeah. As we said, some people fast for periods each day. Others do longer fasts a couple times a week. There's the 5-2. I've been on 5-2 as well. I find 5-2 is okay, but my only complaint with it is if you're not really in that space where you're ready to have a long fast, it can be a bit destructive in your week if you're busy.
Big time.
So I find that when I'm in school, 16-8 is really optimal. Now, I've put on like a good 5 pounds of birthday weight, so I know that I'm going to have to fit in a 24 or 2 in the next couple weeks. Combined with my 16-8, getting better sleep. The thing about fasting is you really change it as you need it. Mm-hmm. And I do find myself getting frustrated with these companies that sell diets to people. I obviously won't name names, but I walk past signs for them. I see advertisements for them online. And it breaks my heart because I know that they're really profiting off of people's failures. And I don't say failures in the sense of the person is failing. They're failing because they're being fed bad advice.
Yeah, exactly.
They're being told, well, you can eat whatever you want and just use this app or this calculator or write in this notebook or come to this support group and give me $5 to jump on a scale and I'll tell you that you had a bad week.
Yeah.
I hate that.
It's unbelievable how much they're exploiting people,
It's true. And so the biggest thing is, so you can be tracking calories, points. If only, and there is an app out there where you just put in the times, every time you eat and what time it is.
Yeah.
I think that if there was a program that just did that, you would start to see results.
That would be big.
It would be big.
And Annii, I wanted to ask you, do you think it's because very few people go through self-experimentation, for something that can lead to positive outcomes? Because if there's anything that I could encourage people to do is experiment with yourself,
Oh, yeah. And I was saying on the show last week that the biggest skill that I would recommend that anybody work on is the ability to listen to your own body.
Oh.
So, Bo, how long have you been fasting?
I started fasting 2015.
Oh, so you've been at it a while.
Yeah, I've been at it for a while. So that's why I posted that on the subreddit for Ask Men Over 30, because I just turned 31. So I decided to go online and I was like, hey, listen, who here who's over 30 has been fasting for 3 years plus, and what benefits have you found from, fasting that long? And I just shared my own experiences with fasting, the benefits that I've seen.
And you got some pretty nice replies.
Yeah, I got, I think up to 80 replies, of just people exchanging, the things that they've encountered, through fasting. It was really, really nice to see.
It's great that people are getting more open-minded to it now. So what introduced you to the concept of intermittent fasting?
It was just a lifestyle change. At that moment in time, it was coming after a period of excess. I'd been working out west, and it was such a demanding job. So, in a way, I became somewhat indulgent in certain things, and I put on a lot of muscle mass. I was probably 30 pounds bigger than I am, just solid muscle mass, because of the demands of the job. I used to go to the gym and do a lot of Olympic lifting, so a lot of squats, deadlifts, a lot of clean and press and so forth. So I put on a lot of size, and then after that, I lost the job out west, and I was in Montreal, and then I started changing my my physical activity regime, and I started going to the gym a lot more, doing functional movements, running. And I started thinking about, what can I change in my diet? And then I thought, what? I'm just going to start skipping breakfast. I don't want to wake up, make breakfast, go to the gym. It takes up a lot of my day. And at that moment in time, I was studying as well. I was studying for the PNG exam. So I felt it was taking up a lot of my time. And then slowly it started off as a Monday to Friday thing. And then I started thinking, well, why don't I just incorporate this on weekends as well? Because on a Saturday morning, I used to go to this place called Burgundy Lion and watch football, just for an hour and a half, 90-minute game. And, I'd order food on a Saturday morning, and I found that I would get really sluggish. I mean, you're doing 5 days of fasting, and then on this Saturday, you're watching football, and you consume food. And I found that I was getting really, really sluggish throughout the day,
A shock to the body.
Exactly, And then slowly I just decided, okay, I'm going to stop eating on Saturdays and Sundays as well. So this was when I started doing the 16-8 split that we were talking about. So it's 16 hours of no food, and then 8 hours of 8 hours is your window of eating, and...
How many meals do you usually eat a day?
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you do the OMAD.
Exactly.
thing,
yeah.
I've had a period on that. Once again, it's how much energy I feel I need throughout the day. But no, I find it's great, and I bet it's good on your time management as well.
Oh, big time. I typically do my meal prep on a Sunday.
Sunday's great for meal prep.
Sunday morning, wake up early, maybe 7. Well, I don't want to say early, but 7:30 is a good time on a Sunday. It's a weekend, so I spend about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, just doing meal prep for the next 2 weeks. Put it in the deep freezer, and then when I get home, I just take it out, put it in the oven, or maybe just put it up in the microwave, depending on how urgent, I need those calories.
Great. So this actually ties right into the next question that I have for you, because I was going to ask you what kind of meals you have, but I think that when you do one meal a day, that's even more critical, what you eat in that one meal.
Sometimes I let go. I just... I'll spoil myself, maybe get a slice of pizza, mix it up with something else. For instance, last night, what did I have? I had hot turkey sandwiches, and I had a slice of pizza. So
It's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving.